This next clip isn't very long, but it is very wrong. This pastor, his name is Pastor Andy Thompson. I think he's in North Carolina, pastor of World Overcomers Church, something like that. I'm not sure. He does advocate for women being pastors, as a matter of fact. I'm not sure if that's his mother, but I know his wife is also a pastor. And so we already know that doctrinally they're not going to be strong. But you would think, though, even still, you would not begin to advocate something that goes contrary to the scriptures. And being faithful, or as they would say, monogamous, that's biblical. Not being faithful, not being monogamous is unbiblical. There's a term for that. It's called adultery.
Sexual exclusivity is one of the ways that we judge the character of a guy today.
Now, before we get going, though, also, he's also listed as an international faith leader. I didn't know he was. I never heard of him before, but he may be. That didn't mean anything. But he's also called a life coach on his website, as well as a relationships expert. So take that for what it's worth.
We are approaching a time in which, when it comes to this, women are becoming more powerless. I don't know if sexual exclusivity is going to be something that they will be able to continue to demand in.
Well, it doesn't really matter if they're going to continue to demand it. That's not the issue. We don't really concern ourselves with what the value system of the world is, because as a pastor, you are still going to push back against that and teach what God says, what God's design is, right?
Monogamy. We're asking people to go from 40 flavors of milkshake to one.
Okay, first of all, we're not asking people to go from anything. We're not asking, first of all, who do you know that's going from 40 flavors? And if so, why isn't it switched? Why aren't you saying we're asking people to go from 1 to 40? No, you're assuming that 40 is kind of the standard. So being out there, being involved, what do they call the high body count? That's okay. And now we're saying to go from that to 1. Well, first of all, even if that's the case, even how he framed it is the right way to go about framing it. So we're asking people to go from 40 to 1, 50 to 1, 10 to 1, 5 to 1. It's really not us as asking, it's God demanding that. But yeah, and isn't that what we're supposed to do? Isn't that what we're supposed to demand, to call people into a life of holiness? Could be my Bible. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just kind of thought that's what the Bible said.
But the minute you commit to this relationship, you can only have one flavor from now on. If we're going to redefine what male roles are and redefine what female roles are, then we may have to be prepared to redefine what the acceptable behavior is within exclusive relationships.
Okay, now I'm not sure if he's trying to go somewhere, if something's happening or whatever. If sometimes people try to soften up a blow that's going to happen. I'm not saying that. I don't know, but why would you be saying this? Now, number one, who's trying to redefine relationships, male roles, female roles? No one's trying to redefine anything. God has already defined those roles. And so when you come back and you say, if we're going to redefine it, no, we're not going to redefine anything. As a matter of fact, we're going to hold fast to what God has said. And God is pretty clear on this. God has said that there is only in the one in marriage, because that's what we ought to be talking about. If there's marriage and the person that goes outside of that, that person is committing a sin. Remember, Jesus has said that if you even look at a woman with lust, you've already committed adultery. And the reason why he says you've already committed adultery is because adultery is a sin. Again, look at the Bible. For this, you shall not commit adultery. Also, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet. And so if you are committing adultery, that's wrong. And even looking at someone else. And so even if you're in a monogamous relationship, if you're in a relationship where it's you and one person, like it ought to be, preferably a married person. That is, now, obviously, if you're dating, same thing, but still. If you began to look at someone else with lust, it's the same as committing adultery. According to who? Not according to me, not according to society as they want to define roles, but according to Jesus. And so it's just amazing that we got this pastor who is, and he's a pastor. I'm not sure how big the church is. It looks like a decent sized church, and maybe it's a growing church. I assume that with this sort of philosophy that he has, it's going to keep growing. I mean, because now all bets are off. Whatever God has defined, it doesn't matter. We're going to kind of redefine things. This is how it is. and let's let people be comfortable in the way that they want to live unto the world, and then occasionally unto God. This is why you got to be careful with who you listen to, the sort of pastors. If they're not going to hold tight and close to the Word of God, well, they're not a pastor. That is someone who's an agent of Satan. Now, maybe he doesn't feel that way, but if you start chipping away at little small parts of the Bible, and there are no small parts, but you get what I'm saying. If you're going to start chipping away a little bit here, a little bit there, next thing you know, it's all about whatever little bit of pieces that you want to take for yourself, like as though it's some sort of buffet. I get a little bit here, a little bit there. I don't like this. I don't like that. This is calling me to live holy. This is calling me to not do this, not do that. That's not the way this works. And so, again, we've got another example of a pastor who should not be a pastor, who should not be teaching. And if he's a relationship expert, not even a good relationship expert.